Justin Fields is the Bears' starting quarterback for the preseason finale against the Tennessee Titans. The regular season's a different story. That's Andy Dalton's job. That's Dionne Miller of ABC 7. I'm Dan Wiederer of the Chicago Tribune. Dionne, how you been?
Oh, it has been a while, right? So I was on vacation last week. We both had some stuff going on, but it's August. It's training camp. It's the slow boil of the regular season. We are allowed to take a breath in this moment. And now we're focusing in as the season is a few weeks away now. It's still that 2-week break is going to be long between the final preseason game and that first one. But you can tell it's coming. You can see that kind of developing, even being around camp and seeing that energy start to get there, that that cut day is coming, that they're going to solidify this roster and we're going to move forward. But this is Justin Fields week. And honestly, that's how I wanted to start every headline with Justin Fields is QB1 for the final preseason game. But it is exciting, and it'll be great to see exactly what he's able to do, hopefully against some ones from Tennessee and working with an offensive line that you would hope would look like the one the Bears want to start with.
Yeah, Matt Nagy said that Justin Fields should play most, if not all, of the first half against the Titans on Saturday night. It's another opportunity to get valuable game reps. To your point, hopefully he will be getting these game reps behind the offensive linemen that they expect to be playing in the regular season. That will be a big plus to Justin Fields. And all of this is about taking more baby steps toward the ultimate goal of being ready to be the starting quarterback for 10 years for the Chicago Bears. There's such an impatience, Dionne, in the city of, if we know Justin Fields is the quarterback of the future, why can't the future start yesterday? Well, Matt Nagy keeps telling us Andy Dalton is going to be the regular season starter, and then things will be fluid from there. It's going to depend on whether the Bears are winning. It's going to be depending on whether Andy Dalton is playing well. It's going to be dependent on whether behind the scenes they feel like Justin Fields continues to understand everything that they're telling him and teaching him. To that point of this conversation, I think there's been nothing but positive feedback from inside of Halas Hall since May about where Justin Fields' development has come over these first 4 months. Matt Nagy said it today. Look, command of the huddle. He's got that. He understands how to spit out a play in the huddle with the proper tone, inflection, direction, all the things that go with that. Understanding the offense, Justin Fields' ability to absorb the playbook. It's there. He understands the concepts in there, the plays that they're trying to run. Now, as Matt told us this morning, it's about Justin Fields understanding what defenses are going to do to trick him after he has the snap in his hands. And that's something you can't fully grasp in preseason when you're facing a lot of vanilla coverages and man-to-man defenses and things that don't challenge you on a sophisticated level. That's the next step for Justin Fields. So for now, Andy Dalton will take the Bears in the regular season, but Justin will get Saturday night to continue opening the rest of the world's eyes to just what his playmaking skills are. And so far through 2 games, it's pretty cool to watch.
It has been really fun to watch. And, this whole development plan, you've asked Nagy about it. We all have, and kind of where he is at on that timeline. He likes where he's at. But it was interesting to hear him say, I don't have a choice but to trust the development plan and to trust this process, because that's the only way that we're going to be successful. But I think he even knows that his skill set is on a different level than what Andy Dalton can do. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how he continues to push for that, getting second team reps, watching, observing, because you don't get that experience reading a defense until you're thrown in there. Yeah. So how are they going to keep managing this? How are they going to kind of monitor that where he's at and stay on top of it without offering him some first team reps as practice goes on? I think that's going to have to happen to see where his development is, or throwing him out there for something. Nagy did not rule it out, a special package that would involve him. So, we'll see what happens. And he's only guaranteed Andy Dalton through week 1. That is it. It's production. It's wins. That's what it's hinging on. So if they get to Cleveland in week 3 and they're 0-2, I have a feeling they're going to pull the trigger faster than they plan on.
Yeah, well, certainly faster than they laid out in April when they drafted Justin Fields. And I think some of that is based upon what they've seen from Justin Fields. I think these first 2 preseason games have been important. They see what he does when they call a play and it doesn't work. Right? There's been more than one example of Justin Fields being like, oh, that play didn't work. I'm out of here. Out the back door. Off he goes for 21 yards. The chains move and the drive continues. Right? And so as a coaching staff, you've spent all this time watching Mitch Trubisky and Nick Foles, and now in the preseason, Andy Dalton fail, right? And not move the chains. And you say, man, it gets really frustrating to feel the stadium sort of caving in on you, to feel the agitation from the fans being like, what is this? What's ever going to happen? And then when you have a guy who can just be like, well, that didn't work. I'm off. Here we go. We've still got this. All of a sudden the coach says, okay, that's a nice luxury to have, a guy who can take my broken plays and turn them into something. we're going to need to get that out on the field sooner than we wanted to, or sooner than we plan to, I guess. Probably as soon as they want to, because they can do whatever they want, but sooner than they plan to. And that's what I think Fields has shown through these first 2 preseason games is, look, I have elite speed. I've got instincts. And that's what I talk about. The difference between Mitch and Justin, there's just instincts for when to take off, how to take off, how to get past the first down, how to get out of bounds or down before you take a hit. Now, he took 1 hit against the Dolphins a couple of weeks ago, but he just has a feel that Mitch didn't have on a regular basis. And I think that makes the coaching staff feel like they can exhale a little bit.
Yeah, totally. I mean, he took a hard hit against Buffalo. I mean, it looked like his head might still be rolling in that helmet down the field. He took a hard hit. He got right back up. And then his response is always, well, like, I learned something from that. He's taking something away. And even watching Mitch come into Soldier Field, it was impressive to see the way he kind of carved up the defense. Granted, I know it was a preseason game. Not everybody was out there, blah, blah, blah. I get it. But some of the things we saw from Mitch were the same things, that he sees where he wants to see down the field. He doesn't move his eyes a lot, right? He's not able to check down and make a change as quickly as we've already seen Justin do it. So again, we're seeing that progress from him come along rather quickly. And I don't know, it's exciting. I think this week is going to be very big for them to see exactly where they're wrapping up the preseason with him and how they want to set him up for the next steps that he'll need to take.
Yeah, and it's funny because the next steps are so unsatisfying to a casual fan, right? Because they don't get to go in the classroom. They don't get to watch behind the scenes what's happening with Justin Fields in these meetings. And so all they see are these games and these highlights that you get, on Twitter and on YouTube and everywhere else that tell you, okay, this guy has playmaking artistry. Well, now behind the scenes, what Matt has sort of laid out for us is that, look, defenses are going to do a lot of complicated, sophisticated things to challenge the Bears offense and confuse Andy Dalton. Justin can sit in the back seat and he can sit in these meeting rooms and watch and go, oh, okay, I see what they were trying to do to you there. Oh, I see where the answer is. And he can do that without the pressure on him, right, to make those decisions in live moments. And so he can learn behind the scenes. Nobody in the outside world is going to see him learning, right? That part of the process isn't satisfying. It's not entertaining. It's not something that amuses the outside world. And so they're just going to have to stay patient. And what I've been telling everyone is, look, the ultimate destination is for Justin Fields to become your starting quarterback. That's happening. That's happening soon. It's probably happening before Halloween. So just relax. By the time we get into mid-October, early November, nobody's going to remember this month-long debate that we had in July and August about should Justin Fields be starting week 1? Should he be starting week 12? Whenever it is. He's going to be your starting quarterback. And at that point, it's up to him to determine how long that's going to be. Is it going to be 4 years and out like Trubisky? Or is it going to be 15 years with trophies going in the trophy cases at Hallis Hall?
Well, let's hope for the latter for sure. And it's interesting what you said, though, about when Nagy said how they're going to monitor his development or how they are recognizing that he's comfortable. Where did they say they see it? The way he asks questions in the classroom, the way he interacts with his teammates, stuff that fans aren't going to stand up and cheer about. They're going to stand up and cheer about a 70-yard touchdown pass, even when they're in shells. And everybody gets so excited that he's doing stuff that we haven't seen on the field in a while. But that is where he's going to show them that he's ready. And I think the other thing that I can't get over is just how calm he seems. Talking to the media, talking to the coaches on the field, running plays. He just, I mean, he said, I feel like I was born for this. He acts like he was born for that. I mean, he seems so natural. And that's what I think gets fans really excited too, is that nothing seems too big for him. Nothing.
Oh, I agree. I was just going to say, I agree with you on that. In the summer, we talked about the word presence, right? And that's what everyone inside Hallis Hall was talking about. There's this presence. It just is infectious. It's contagious. It makes you feel like you're in good hands. I think you brought up the word that I have attached to the month of August for Justin Fields, and it's comfort. He just seems comfortable. He just doesn't seem like any of this. Even if he makes mistakes, it doesn't seem like, oh, God, that freaked me out. It's just I made a mistake. We're going to get that corrected. We're good. And there's just a calm about him. You understand why the coaching staff feels so at ease, because there's a calm and it's a steadiness and it's a reliability there where he knows that he's putting in the work. He knows that he's been blessed with an elite skill set and speed and vision and arm strength and a brain that helps him process everything. So there's this faith, this self-assurance that he has. I think, in the Trubisky era, there was a lot of hoping, right?
A lot.
We hope Mitch is this. We hope Mitch is that. We hope Mitch is this. We hope Mitch is that. With Justin Fields, there's a belief that he's these things. And he is the reason that belief starts, because you can tell he believes it in himself.
You know what I'm sick of hearing, though? We need to figure out the whys. We're going to try and figure out the whys. Okay, the why was that Mitch Trubisky didn't have the experience. Okay, so I don't want to hear that in this moment. If Dalton is struggling, don't tell me you're trying to figure out the whys. You've got somebody there who's ready to step in, and I really think that he could be ready for week 1. But I also think that Nagy is doing well by the franchise to let Dalton take those first hits and to do that and to force fans to be a little bit more patient waiting for Justin, because it will be worth the wait. I think that is a wise move. I'm not sure what to make about what he said, though, that even in Kansas City, it took them 3 to 4 years for that offense to get rolling. And he's now heading into his 4th year. Like, why? And now the offense is getting ready to take off. And I wanted to follow up and be like, really? You've had how many different this will be what is 4th? Fields is the 4th quarterback that he's had there, right? And trying to implement this offense. You had an offensive line that until 2 days ago, you weren't sure who was going to start week 1. And Jason Peters, God bless him, he's huge and he's a monster when he's ready, but he was 2 plays and taking a knee. Like, these are guys that are not ready for a regular season. So there's a lot that I don't see an offense that's on the verge of taking off just yet that Nagy says that they are.
It's certainly going to be a hard sell to the people of Chicago that, look, I've told you when I was a first-year coach, this was going to take 4 years for this offense to get up and running. You say, well, wait a second, because when we started the 2019 season, you told us that this team was ready to win a Super Bowl, right? And that this offense was ready to go to 202 and 303 with Mitch Trubisky as the quarterback. It didn't happen. So that's sort of revisionist history to say, well, now we've got guys who've been in this offense 2, 3, 4 years, and now it's ready to take off. That's a coach trying to set expectations that are going to raise, but let's not gloss over the fact that it didn't work the last 2 years, and it didn't work to extreme fashions that put them in a position. Remember, the reason Andy Dalton's here is because the Bears were drafting 20th overall, and they had no illusions that they were going to wind up with Justin Fields in the draft. And so that's why a desperate front office and coaching staff went out in March and said, we need to get somebody who can start and hopefully win games and potentially protect our jobs. Then they drafted Justin Fields a month later, and it was like, okay, well, Andy's just a placeholder, right? And now
right.
Inside. But to your point about the offense, like the people of Chicago need to see someone consistently leading this offense to 360 yards and 25 points and feeling like, oh, that looks like NFL football. And I think that's one of the things when you see Fields. Now, look, his game against the Bills wasn't spectacular.
No.
But you see him do certain things where you say, oh, that's what I usually watch when I leave Soldier Field and come turn on other games, right? And you see quarterbacks making play off schedule and off script and the whole crowd coming alive and the sideline feeling this energy because your guy did what your guy is advertised to do.
Right.
That's what Justin Fields brings more than anything else.
Totally true. And you know what I always find interesting too, when we're at camp and you're so enmeshed with this Bears team and you're knee deep in the media guide and you're learning all these guys and you're like, oh, this team is going to be awesome. And then they play a game against somebody else and you're like, oh, right. They've got a lot to go. So I think that we have to temper our enthusiasm and kind of filter the way we're feeling right now, because this is the 3-game preseason is new, because the way other teams are playing, the who's sitting out, who's playing, there's too many questions right now. We have to somewhat filter our expectations from what we're seeing right now. But in defending Justin against the Bills, so far behind by the time he got out there, right? Like it wasn't what he had shown in that first week, but that's part of it, right? Like that's part of him growing. That's part of having to take over a team that was struggling. And now, he's being called on to do something magical. I mean, that he's going to be put in those situations, I feel like, again, but we'll see.
If you look at Justin Fields' best highlights through these first 2 preseason games, most of them are sort of the improvisational highlights, right? And so eventually you want to see him make plays by reading a defense, understanding, where the second option is, finding it, making a play, turning that into a touchdown, whatever it may be. Right now it's been, okay, I see man-to-man coverage, I throw it up, Rodney Adams catches it, great play. Jesse James comes open on a wide open route against the Dolphins. Anyone could have thrown that touchdown. Get out and scramble. So the coaching staff wants to see Justin make things that tell you that, okay, this isn't just backyard football. Now listen, I am 100% a believer in backyard football skills translating into high-level NFL success. Go ask Russell Wilson. Go ask Patrick Mahomes. Go ask Aaron Rodgers how they've used their their backyard football skills to make plays outside of the pocket. And when guys are just running around like it's recess in 5th grade again, they can make things happen. Justin Fields is going to do a lot of that in the future. You just want to see him do some of that other stuff before you clear him to start for 10 years. Remember, this isn't a short-term assignment. It's as soon as he goes in, there's no turning back. He's your quarterback, hopefully for the duration of this contract, into a second contract, potentially into a third contract and beyond. And so people have to, I guess, keep that long view in mind, even as impatient as you feel wanting him to be the starter on September 12th when the lights come on in LA.
I've heard some opinions out there that he's the best quarterback that was drafted here. And from what we've seen right now, based on other rookies that we've watched, I tend to agree because of the stuff we've just talked about, that calmness, that comfort, the way he carries himself. And even Nagy telling these like off the wall stories from behind the scenes of how he's interacting with his teammates and how he's building that rapport. He sounds like he's ready, and so I think it will be worth the wait. I feel like I'm at this point repeating myself because I think that patience will pay off for the fans, that he will come out when he's ready and it'll be so worth it.
It's just such a natural confidence. It really is that he has. One last thing on this topic. You mentioned the offensive line, and I think it is notable that after a month that was pretty hellish for that offensive line, with guys out with COVID on the COVID list and guys out with injury and another guy, Tevin Jenkins, having back surgery. It was a hellish month for the offensive line. Well, here we are in the final days of August, and all of a sudden you say, okay, it looks like they have their 5 starters that are going to be playing week 1 together on the practice field at the same time. And so maybe the coaching staff can take that sigh of relief and say, okay, Jermaine Ifedi's back. Jason Peters is here, right? Like we would have preferred Tevin Jenkins not need back surgery and him to be our starting left tackle for the long term. But it's a decent fallback option to have a guy who's 39 and has been a 6-time All-Pro, right? To come in.
Right.
Not sure he's old, and sure he had toe injury last year that put him out for the end of the season. But it's Jason Peters, right? Like if you're going to pick up a guy off the street, it's a good guy to pick up off the street. And so maybe the cohesion of this offensive line gives this offense some spark and some energy going into the regular season.
It's huge. And now, by their own admission, they're conditioning on the fly. So we have to give them some space and grace for that to come together, and probably see more of them starting with Justin Saturday night in Tennessee, which I think is pretty cool. Like, I think that's going to be good to see how he can improvise behind an O-line that is trying to get up to speed together at late in the preseason. So I think that's going to be really big to keep an eye on this week. But you're right, to have that front 5 somewhat solidified, I think is huge to start to build some consistency and to realize what they're going to have, because protecting for Justin Fields and protecting for Andy Dalton are 2 entirely different things. And they have to be ready for that with Dalton, to give him time, because he's not going to be able to ad-lib the way that Justin is. So I think it'll just be interesting to see how that comes together quickly. They feel like it will. Jason Peters, I mean, I couldn't be a bigger fan that fast. Like he knows it. He knows what he's doing. He knows if he does his job, it helps everybody else. And what a valuable piece to bring in at a time when the O-line needs it.
I love the fact that he was just out fishing somewhere.
I do too.
Called him up and he was like, what's Warren calling for? Oh, they needed me to play left tackle for the Bears. Okay, cool. I'm going to go do that for
I love when he's like, come out to practice and watch me and see if I look like I'm 39. I mean, I love it. I just think it's awesome. I think 39 is young, by the way, Dan. 39 is very young. I'm just saying.
Much younger than me, for sure. Same. Okay. I wasn't going to give that away. I would have told people a month ago that they need to tune into this Titans game, because it was the last they were going to see of Justin Fields for a long, long while. I'm amending that. It's going to be the last you see of Justin Fields for a bit. I think he's going to play in the regular season sooner than we all anticipated. And so just have that breath, big exhale. And Justin Fields will be your starting quarterback before you know it.
And you only really have to sit through 2 more quarters of the preseason, because once the second half comes and it's Nick Foles, I might be out. We'll see.
Nick Foles has been slicing and dicing them up. He's a better quarterback than he was when he led the Eagles to the Super Bowl. That will be on display Saturday night at Nissan Stadium in Nashville.
Best third stringer in the league. At me. Go ahead. Argue with me. Best third stringer in the league.
Like this video. Subscribe to this channel. We'll have more on that preseason game against the Titans soon. For Dionne Miller, I'm Dan Wiederer. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.